and welcome to the Respectfully podcast. I'm Nikki Pope, your host for this hairdressing conversation. My guest today is hairdresser Ashleigh Hodges. Ashleigh is the owner of Mash Creative Studios in Hackney, London. She cuts quite a dash in hairdressing and has gathered plenty of awards and interesting roles as a session stylist, a colour ambassador, and most recently as president of the Fellowship for British Hairdressing. I've invited her here today to give me the down low on what is happening in hairdressing from her point of view. Welcome, Ashleigh.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for traipsing across a very hot London to get here to our studios. We'll see how long we last under the lights with this.
It's nice. I love the sun, so I'm living my best life right now.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm very happy.
I
know everybody else is dying, aren't they?
Well, I think this year has kind of broken me. I'm usually a lot more upbeat about the sun, but I think it's just because it's going on quite a long time. It's just, if we didn't have to work, we'd be fine.
Oh, absolutely. If we could lay by a beach and enjoy this weather, we would absolutely be living our best lives.
And it must be torture, really, as a hairdresser with the whole, do you really want your hair blow dried?
I know. I to be fair, I actually have been doing that with all of my clients because I'm like, even if I blow dry your hair, it's not going to look very nice by the time you go out and get to the tube. So we have about 5 fans going at Mash Creative right now. And anytime someone wants a photo shoot, I'm like, all right, okay, don't go in the mezzanine because you will die up there.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because if you think through it, your average hairdresser, even, if you're on your own in a studio or running a salon, everything's about heat.
Yeah.
The water, cups of tea, blow drying, curling, styling.
I mean,
whatever.
as a colourist, it's our catalyst. So, I mean, my bleachers are taking very well right now. So that's a good thing.
You came along to a wellness conversation that I was having recently. Hosting with lots of professionals. We were talking about wellness and what that means and how we're much more open to the idea of wellness, not just being the absence of illness, but being how we all feel and look after. Do you see that having changed over the last 10, 20 years in your relationship with clients? Do you think hairdressers broadly are more aware of how their clients are feeling about coming and what their sort of experience of the salon is?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I mean, that was such a brilliant evening. So thank you for putting that on. And it's so needed. I feel like that whole topic in our industry is so important right now. And I personally went along to it because almost every single one of my clients in some way is dealing with some form of hair loss at the moment.
Right.
And wellness is the core to all of those things. So, I think it's really interesting. Like, I'm a science nerd. So, I mean, when I started in the industry 20 odd years ago, as soon as I started learning all the science behind colour and hair growth, and my consultation was always like, your hair is fed from your blood, and what's going on inside you is going to be affecting your hair, and how are you doing as a person was always kind of a key thing. But it was not a key thing to everyone in their consultation, and I feel like now it is. I feel like that's something that even if 20 years ago you weren't saying that, you are now. Which I find really fascinating because the world in general is so about like optimization of people, which I personally don't necessarily agree with. I feel like we should humble ourselves into nature a bit more. But that is also where wellness comes in. I think it's most clients they're keyed up on it, so we have to be keyed up on it.
So it's like a sort of circular thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's loop back to that comment then. You're a sort of sciencey. Tell us a bit about Ashleigh deciding to become a hairdresser and what motivated her and what attracted her into the industry. What's Ashleigh's story?
I grew up in hairdressing. So my mum's a hairdresser. I have like 4 generations of hairdressers in my family. And my mum opened her own salon. But prior to that, I was a Saturday girl in her salon at like 11. And it was that or go and watch my dad and my brother play football. And obviously it's way more exciting being in a salon. So I just grew up around it and absolutely loved it. I did really well in school and none of my teachers wanted me to be a hairdresser. A couple even made little comments about it. And
so you were saying you wanted to be a hairdresser
even
absolutely.
At that point? I knew as soon as I it was just like a thing. As soon as I walked into And it wasn't even, my mum wasn't even working in like a fancy salon or anything. It was a tiny little salon in a back street of Northampton. And I remember first working there, and I didn't know how to make coffee. I knew how to make a cup of tea, but I didn't know how to make coffee. And I had to then, funny times. And I just loved it. The buzz of it, the connection that you had with clients, the creativity behind it. We used to get all the different hair magazines, and I would sit and flick through them and be like, I want to do that. And there used to be like jobs in the back of some of them, and I'd be like, oh my God, I could apply for these jobs one day. And
really, so it was always the dream.
Yeah.
And what about, so you're very respected and very well known as a colorist specifically. So was it always color for you?
I don't know if it was necessarily always color for me. It was just something I love the combination of art and science.
Right.
And I think colour always just naturally kind of fell within that. And then so Matrix at the time used to do a lot, I mean, I'm sure they still do, they used to do a lot of kind of local education, and my mum had a Matrix salon. So because when I qualified, when I went and did my apprenticeship, I'd been in hairdressing for about 6 years already. So I kind of was bored at college one day a week.
Yeah.
So I rushed through that very quickly. And I got all the extra credits I possibly could because I just didn't want to be bored. And then I would pester everyone to like let me on their courses. And I would sit at the front of the Matrix courses because they were the ones local to me. And there was just loads of colour courses. So I just went and... I mean, it was Nicola Chamberlain, who now is like superstar at L'Oreal. She was the local educator for Matrix at the time, and she taught me the colour wheel.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's what I ended up falling into. I think they got sick of me and just told me to like come and be an educator so they could just give me the knowledge.
So what was your journey then? So you worked in a salon once you qualified? You were
so
salon based?
I worked at my mum's. Yeah. I worked at my mum's salon. I helped her. For about 10 years, I helped her run it. And then I became a freelance educator. I think I was one of the youngest. I was about 19, which I look back now and I'm like, who's going to listen to this 19-year-old teaching them colour? But there we go. People did. So I became one of the youngest educators for Matrix. And I saw a show of Errol Douglas when I was about 14. I was still a Saturday girl. In Northampton, and he become like my ultimate hairdresser, and who I wanted to be. And we were on an event, we went to an event in London. I was actually really sad. My mum took me on it because my boyfriend had just broke up with me, and it was to cheer me up. And Errol was doing the hair at this event. And afterwards you could go and meet him at the bar and have a photo with him. And I was like, he's my idol. I want this picture. And my mum, who's not very tech savvy, was trying to take this picture. And then all of a sudden she was like, Errol, my daughter wants to work with you. And I'm like stood next to him, like dying inside, like, I bet
he loved that.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Of course he did. Anyway, he gave me his card, and then like 2 months later I was his assistant on a show in Leeds, and then the rest was history then.
Let's jump forward then. So now we find you have your own studio, which you share out. People can hire the space or come and work from it. It can be a co-working space. You look after clients there? Yeah.
So Mash Creative Studio was born. Technically, I got the keys at the end of 23, but I soft launched it and opened it properly in 24. Yeah. It's been going a couple of years now, which still blows my mind because it's bloody hard running a business.
Yeah. Well, year 3 is the pivotal year. I'm just telling you that now.
Yeah. Do you know, everyone said when I first opened, they're like, got to get to year 1. And then I got to year 1 and they're like, year 3. And I have a feeling that when I get to year 3, everyone's going to go, year 5. The goalpost is going to keep going.
So you are married?
We technically aren't married.
Are you not? But I saw you get married at Glastonbury.
We had, we had a spiritual wedding.
Right.
So it was like a little hippie wedding, but we're not legally married. But Matt and I have been together 16 years.
And he's in hairdressing.
Yeah.
Does he work at MASH as well?
So he works full-time primarily at Manifesto.
Yeah.
And they're a lovely bunch there. And then he works creatively and freelance at MASH.
So Christmas round your mum's.
Yeah.
With Matt and you and your mum there. Is it all just hairdressing talk all the time?
Weirdly, it's not actually. But yeah, like we are surrounded by a lot of hairdressers. But then thankfully, like none of our really close mates are hairdressers.
Right.
So there's a nice kind of balance.
So there's a life outside hairdressing.
There is, yeah, which I never thought. There was points in my life where there hasn't been.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that there is now.
Yeah. So there's more. Do you consciously work at that balance? You know, not making your whole life about hairdressing, not having only friends in hairdressing. I mean, hairdressing is, as we all know, really friendly and it's easy to become completely immersed. Do you find yourself thinking, I must make sure I also do?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, when I was on Fame Team with Bruce, I remember him at the time. He was really into cycling. He might still be.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling the four of us, "You have to have other hobbies." Yeah. And I mean, I was 21 at the time. Hairdressing was literally just everything to me. So I do think back now that I do have all these other hobbies. And I am really grateful for that advice. And I understand it so much better now than I did then.
Yeah. Now, you are a colourist, but you do session work. And so is that with colour?
I am an all-rounder. So when I look after my clients, I do everything.
Okay.
And again, like hats off to my Fame Team days for all the sassoon training I got, because I can cut hair. I can cut hair well. I just wouldn't do it on stage.
Okay.
But yeah, like colour is the thing that I love. But I do a lot of sessions. So I work a lot with Craig Chapman. He heads up a lot of departments for TV. So I go and become his right-hand girl for the likes of Britain's Got Talent, The Voice. We did Netflix Building the Band a couple of years ago, which was fun. And so we work across TV. I do a lot of music and editorials, and for the last couple of years, just because I felt like I personally needed to be re-inspired. Yeah. I contacted one of my friends in the industry, Pablo Cumin, and went and assisted on his Fashion Week shows. I love his stuff. Yeah. He's so talented.
Yeah. Definitely one for the Instagram. Anybody listening needs to follow Pablo. So let's start being a bit more controversial then. No, not controversial. Let's start asking some questions. So you became president of the Fellowship for British Hairdressing.
Yes.
And you've just finished a 2-year stint. So during the last 2 years, as we come out of COVID, you'd have to be living under a rock not to know that there's been a lot of challenges for the industry with people going freelance and the salon model having to evolve. So you're president of the Fellowship for British Hairdressing. I think I've said that a few times now. So, representing, nurturing, championing the industry, which I know you have always done, but you're technically freelance. Was there any comment about that? Did that bring up, or was that never a conversation?
Do you know, weirdly, that wasn't the conversation. I think when I become Rob's vice, Rob Eaton
was the previous president and you were the vice president.
Yeah. We kind of had a really good balance of him being from like a heritage like family,
big family, well known,
and me being very much kind of freelance for 10 years, etc. So we had that nice balance, and I tried to keep the same with my board. So even though I was technically the face of the organisation and people would know me through session and freelance, I personally have that background of family owning salons. Yeah. But equally, the people that would sit around the table with me also had kind of their foot in that area. And Michelle, who was my vice, also kind of at the time was running a salon. She's just sold hers. So I always tried to make sure that everyone in the industry had a voice whilst I was president.
Yeah, so you were relatable to somebody. So it wasn't a conversation. You are a woman and you were the youngest woman to be in the position, which hopefully nobody questioned that on either front.
That weirdly was the conversation.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
What, your age or your...
I just think, yeah, I mean, without going too much into it.
We have had some female presidents, not as many as there ought to have been.
Well, it's 80 years and there's been 4.
Is that all?
Yeah.
And I remember all of them, so it can't have been... Wow.
Yeah, which actually
doesn't reflect very well on any of us, quite
no.
frankly.
And there was a lot of hard conversations that I had to bring up during the 10 years that I sat around that table in general, which is why under Ken's presidency, he made me head of diversity, because I would be the one bringing it up that, like, we've had one black president in those 80 years. Like, it's not really showing the true roots of our industry at all, but equally it's always a reflection of the wider world. So we need to kind of shift our world to make the bigger world better, and that's how I always think of it.
Do you believe in positive discrimination in order to get profiles? I do. I think, you know, when it comes to maybe issues around black and afro hair, about women in hairdressing, I think we have to make space. We have to positively up the numbers in order for the habit and the visibility to be there. It's interesting, the idea of women in hairdressing, or not the idea, the reality of women in hairdressing has been a conversation for the last 30 years for me as a journalist, stroke magazine publisher and event organiser. And I was having it with somebody the other day about how I was saying we need to champion and we need to positively discriminate and make sure that there are women in every lineup, whether it's a show, whether it's an awards finalist, so on. The answer came back, oh yes, but women aren't really doing it for themselves. So, and this was a woman saying it to me actually. You know what they're like. They just sort of stand back and let the men get on with it. And I felt just really worn out by that.
But I also think that actually it's way more just systemic in the fact that the way women and men grow up within the world have different voices, different ways about them. And until we open the doors for other women to be at the top, they're not going to think the same way. If the men are at the top and the men are the ones making the decision, they're going to get on and understand the men that are coming up through the industry way more than the women that are coming up through the industry. And I remember having a conversation with someone, even just like leaving an event, like sometimes like we'll take a change of clothes so that we can get home more safely. Yeah. And like there's so much more things that women generally have to think of than I know the men do. And it gets really exhausting.
Yeah. It's interesting. As I get older, I find myself quite often thinking, note to self, would a man say that, or would a man write that? You know, and sometimes deciding not to say or write something because I think, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was trying to explain to a man the other day, I bet he's never even thought like that, never once said to himself, oh, I shouldn't say that, you know, or would a woman say that? And I feel bad about even thinking it. You know, I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah. But I think, like, even just people thinking that in the first place and checking in on themselves with it, that's making things better.
Yeah, true. So the last couple of years, you've had a high-profile role within UK hairdressing and arguably more globally as well. Did the power go to your head?
Absolutely not.
I know, personally, my vision is, I think it's a bloody hard job, that.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of you know how hard it's going to be until you actually sit there and realise how much work and how... What did you did you have something that you set out to achieve? And have you come away with something that you think, damn, I didn't get that done?
Yeah, I mean, there was a number of things I'd set out to achieve. I think I knew, I don't think it fully settled until I become president. And that first month of me being president and the messages and the incredible things that were being said about me becoming president in and of itself, that was a massive turning point.
What, negative things?
No.
Oh.
Good things.
Oh, good
like, amazing. I was getting so many, I was like inundated with people just being like, to see me become the president gives them hope, and
oh, great,
meant that they knew that they could one day do that. And all these young girls in the industry were messaging me about it, and even people older than me just saying, knowing that I was at the helm, they felt really safe and secure, and that was incredible. So I knew I kind of could have done nothing.
Yeah.
And me being that figurehead would have changed things in and of itself. But I'm not that type of person anyway. I'm a fighter, and I ended up, like within that first year, I kind of started digging through things and learning things and realizing the things I'd set out to do were just surface level, and I needed to do a lot more internally. And we restructured the organization and pulled in a chair, pulled in a finance committee, pulled in like more voices that were really needed. And because it's like you said, it's an 8-year-old organization, and it's hard times in our industry right now. And what I wasn't prepared for is that people will just phone me and just tell me about what's wrong with the industry, as if like me as president could fix this.
Oh, welcome to my world.
And I
get this.
And I was like, it's like 10 o'clock at night.
I know.
I don't know what you think I can do. So that was fascinating.
I've had that a lot over the years, in being in a sort of role that isn't a hairdresser's role, but as a sort of know, publisher and perhaps somebody with a platform. The conversations that start off with what you need to do is, or wouldn't it be great if you could do that? And I'm thinking, I'm actually trying to run a business. I'm trying to raise my family and earn, a living. It's kind of, it's really interesting, isn't it? How it's lovely in a way that people see you as somebody who has a can-do attitude. But it is quite.
And I wanted to just be like, mate, I do this for free. There's only so much. I mean, I gave every single day of my life for 2 years as president. There was no off day. It broke me a good couple of times.
Has it made you think it should be a paid role? Because I know there are now paid roles in the fellowship when there didn't used to be.
I think it should be subsidised in some way, because it does take you out of your business. It does take you out of your day-to-day, and it does cost you money being in that role. And I'm all for people giving back to the industry and giving back to the fellowship in particular, because people did that for me. But I don't feel like it should cost people. If people are being paid and then you're losing money for doing the same sort of fighting, I don't agree with that.
No, it's really difficult. I think that's always been, the big challenge, is that it is altruistic. You do it for the love of it, but it is massively time consuming, and things grow, don't they? Whether it's this organisation or other ones, they grow, things develop, and there are more of this and more of that, and life is faster, and communications is more complicated. I think if it becomes financial, there is more accountability, which might be a better thing. It's a difficult one. So sense of relief in a way.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, I'm really proud. My luncheon was the biggest luncheon in history, and it ended with a standing ovation. And it just felt very special, because I think what the presidency taught me personally was just how supportive our industry is. And I felt very lucky to have grown up within it, and that I could phone all the past presidents, I could phone past chair people, I could phone people and just be like, right, I just need some advice, or someone's phoning me about this, what would you say? And I felt very supported, which I was really, really grateful for.
Yeah. So let's broaden that out to sort of the here and now. After a couple of nights good sleep, hopefully you've got more plans. What's the sort of dynamic now for you? What are you working towards? What are you building towards?
This is the first time that I have kind of not been attached to something big. And it's kind of weirdly nice.
Meaning, because you've had global ambassador roles and things.
Yeah. I mean, even in my 20s, I was like a global ambassador for Matrix and would fly all over the world for them. And then I shifted and become the global colour ambassador for Davines, and I headed up the whole colour for their organisation, which was an honour and a privilege, and it was amazing. But I was away every single week.
Yeah.
And I stepped away from that role because I knew if I was juggling that, a business and presidency, I mean, I'm not a superhuman.
No.
So yeah, for the first time, I have a bit of space where, yeah, I'm doing some ambassador roles and I'm doing some lovely things with some great brands, but primarily it's my business and my things that I want to do and my own creativity that I get to kind of play with for a bit, which is terrifying financially, but really nice as a person.
Yeah, so you can do the build. So what do you see? So you've got a particular vision of hairdressing, having been sort of standing at the top of the mountain looking down and having that sort of 360 vision in ways that some of us sometimes have and other people never have. What do you see coming down the line for hairdressing? We've had an awful lot of anxiety and sometimes fear, and I take that with a big dose of realism. There's a lot there, but what do you see coming, and where do you find the joy potentially?
I think that we need to kind of get back to there's like a weird balance in our industry right now, and there is, and I think it's just the world again in general with social media. Everyone can have a voice no matter what, which is a good and a bad thing.
And as long as it's an indoor voice, people, not shouty outdoor voices. Thank you very much.
And I think sometimes if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Like, did you not learn that as a child?
Well, that's true. I think just because you can doesn't mean you should is the overarching one for me. And
I just think I got asked this at an awards panel thing last year about people coming into our industry, and there was a lot of negativity about people not charging properly and hairdressers not knowing their worth and all these different things. And I think for me personally, and this is a bit controversial in terms of things, but like I find there's a lot of people in our industry that actually don't respect hairdressers, and that really breaks my heart, because actually we, like, first and foremost, most of those people, I'm like, you wouldn't have a job without us.
Yeah. So you mean people working as professionals in hairdressing, maybe not as a hairdresser, but in other roles. Yeah.
In other roles. I mean, and sometimes like hairdressers that have shifted from being a hairdresser into other roles as well have lost that connection. And they might say that they do, but the way they talk about it isn't respectful. Which is very ironic that we're on this podcast talking about that. But I think we just need to have respect for each other, whether you're freelance, whether you're employed. No, like, it doesn't matter. There's so many different broad spectrums of that. You can be a small salon employing a couple of people. You could be a massive salon employing loads of people. You could equally be a freelancer renting a chair. You could be a freelancer in session. You could be somebody that's working within brands. Like there are so many avenues within our incredible industry, and there are so many ways for people to get creative. And whether, like, I know people that own businesses that are making millions of pounds, which is amazing. I know people that are starting charities, which is amazing. I know people that are doing exhibits with their hair work and literally creating art from it, which is amazing. And there are also just people that are day in, day out, supporting their families, cutting hair, connecting with their clients and making people feel beautiful on the inside out. And again, that is amazing. So, like, no matter what you're doing in this industry, you're making something special. And I think that gets forgotten a lot of the time.
Yeah. I wish we were not quite always going to the fear factor, because there are things to be wary of for sure. But there's lots of things that we shouldn't be as wary about.
Yeah, I mean, change is inevitable. Like, weirdly, that's like the only constant in life is that things will change. And I think, like, at the end of the day, we're all creatives in some capacity, and creatives can thrive in change, or they can isolate themselves in change. And you have two ways of going about it. And I think we are that's where we should click our creative mind into place and play with it and allow us to see where that change can take us. And the more you fight it, the more you're going to get left behind. And I'm not saying that that's like in terms of business models or anything. I just think that's just a life skill that we all end up having to learn at some point, that we all will fight change. None of us, like human beings, don't like change. We like comfort.
Yeah.
But life changes all the time.
A little bit of excitement on the side, but only just so much.
Exactly.
And,
enough to make us feel special.
And all of that, exactly. No, I agree. I think that there's lots of exciting things going on. I would still think it's an amazing industry. I think we just need to feel more eager for that and not constantly look back at what it was and how it's shifted. I think, broadly speaking, what is so exciting now, or the opportunity that could be exciting if we make it, is that hairdressers can take back the power, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, for several decades, money, commerce, brands have driven hairdressing, you know, asked people to create products so that they can then package them and sell them and so on, supported people in opening salons, but they've all been business transactions and we'll give you this, but then you've got to spend that and so on. I think now it's it can be overwhelming if you lived through that and enjoyed it, but actually now the opportunity to really be hairdressing for what it is, and the craft of hairdressing and the skill and the way you can make people feel and being part of wellness. I think there's a lot of people out there who are poised to get on with it and make it work. And maybe they're just not shouting about it enough. And then I think there's a lot of help that we can give. And to just, you know, lots of putting our arms around each other, if you like.
Yeah,
metaphorically.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I'm not putting my arms around everybody, Ashleigh, but as long as I can choose.
Selectively.
Selectively speaking.
Yeah.
So brilliant. So we've talked sort of about what's going forward for you, and I wish you all the success with the business. Let's leave it on a little bit of a sort of a fun note then. Who are you watching now? You know, you spent your teenage years watching the likes of Errol Douglas and the sort of the big names that were around then. What sort of things catch your eye now? Who is sort of slaying it? It doesn't have to be a person, or it could be a thing, but you're welcome to.
There are so many incredible people now slaying it, and I think that's what's so special about our industry right now, is that you can self-promote yourself, like you just said, like separate from big businesses and brands. Like, it's in the hands of every individual now in our industry, which is really special. I mean, there's incredible people. I mean, you've got Lisa Farrell, who is smashing it. She was my creative director at the fellowship. It's so lovely to see her working. Effie Davis is just a legend. Oh my God. But then you've got the likes of Naomi Brooks, who is insane. She works backstage with us, and that girl put a ponytail in like nobody's business. I mean, Jordana Cabela is incredible. There's so many amazing people. Ellie Foreman from Tribe, like from a creative and a business perspective, like she's smashing it. Yeah. There's a lot of special people out there.
I can see a theme here. They're all ladies.
Oh yeah, I mean,
they're all the girls. No, I agree with that. I think that for me, the people that I'm watching are the people who I think are getting it right, are people who are not afraid to talk about not just standards broadly, but to actually say, that's great, I really like that, and that's amazingly done. So I think we need more of that. We need to hear voices more talking about what really is good and what isn't in a world where we can now put everything out there. And we can make stuff up and we can talk about AI. I think we now need to get our eyes used to picking out what's good and get back to sort of taste making again, and really sort of, you know, as you say, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. But that doesn't mean you can't say, that's really amazing. And to actually sort of curate a sense of what your aesthetic is. I think that's what I'd like hairdressers to do, actually, is to come around to being okay having a signature style or something that you love. You
should talk to Matt. He is all about this in the industry. Yeah, we have massive conversations about the whole form of aesthetics within our industry, because a bit like you said earlier, we've become very insular. And we need to broaden our horizons when it comes to things like that, because we need to not be creating for an award. We need to be creating for the creativity of it.
Yeah.
And in other industries, you don't get that the way that you get it in our industry. In other industries, they're creating albums, artwork, fashion, because that's what the world needs.
Yeah, yeah. We've become a little bit self-serving. It's sort of, as you say, we have become, that's a whole nother conversation, awards, but the awards still drive too much in our industry, I think. Yeah. And there are more coming. But brilliant. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming over to have a chat and finding out a bit more about what makes you tick.
No, thanks for having me. I've loved it. Enjoyed it.
More to be said next time. Thank you so much to my guest, Ashleigh Hodges, for joining us and sharing where she is in her hairdressing journey and what's upcoming. If you enjoyed listening to this episode of Respectfully, then do look at our library of conversations stretching right back to 2018. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Acast, and many other good podcast platforms. Also on our site, respectyou.me. Until next time, goodbye.